So hello everybody, my name is Julian and I'm a writer for children and young adults. I've written in this small room for the last 10 years, researching, immersing myself in all kinds of places and time settings. So from ghosts in Shanghai in the 1920s, to modern day edgy circus companies, to a troubled near future England, I've tried to find out about other worlds through various means. But for the last 3 years I've been researching and writing a book set in a contemporary setting, but in an extraordinary setting, an unforeseen crisis that developed in the lives of tens of thousands of people in March 2011. And that was the Great Japan Earthquake and Tsunami. In a moment, people's lives were changed. Hundreds of thousands of homes were destroyed, and about 18,000 people lost their lives. And as soon as the disaster happened, I was really interested to see what life would be like on the other side of this catastrophe. I've always been a worrier, a catastrophist, and also have a deep fascination and passion for Japan and its culture. I travelled there a lot before the disaster. So I started trying to find a way to tell a story about it. And I knew that was a story that I would have to go and experience the setting for myself. There are some things you can't do with books and notebooks, some things you have to go and talk to people who've actually lived an extraordinary experience. So I travelled several times to Japan, particularly to the area around Fukushima, where the nuclear reactors had melted down during the disaster. And because of that meltdown, many thousands of people had had to leave their houses, creating an empty zone. And I really wanted to know what it was like inside that zone, because empty spaces always fill with something. They fill with stories, and in this case they also started to fill with ghosts. There were a lot of ghost stories being told after the disaster. And it was important to me as well that I found a way of telling the story that would do honour to the people who had experienced this tragedy and were rebuilding their lives, and one which I thought could tell something useful for all of us maybe to benefit from. So it's a very heartfelt book, and it was important to me to find a publisher who would help me do that to the best of my ability. So I'm delighted that the wonderful new indie publisher, Guppy Books, has signed this book, which will be called Tsunami Girl, and it should be out in March next year, in time for the 10th anniversary of the disaster. The earthquake was huge. It was the biggest earthquake ever to hit Japan. The tsunami was the biggest tsunami in maybe 1,000 years. And the radiation disaster has only really been experienced in one other place on Earth around Chernobyl. And as I talked to the people who were rebuilding their lives, I was inspired. I was inspired to tell a story based on their experiences. And as I say, I wanted to do honour to that and honour to the culture around it. So into this story will come elements of Japanese folklore, yokai monsters, Japanese ghost stories, Japanese mythology, and also a big nod to manga comics, and in particular a strand of manga called Gekiga, which were alternative manga of the 60s and 70s. My central character, Yuki, grows up here in England. She's a quarter Japanese, but she longs to spend time in Japan. And she travels there as often as she can to see her grandpa, who is a now retired, once famous Gekiga artist. Yuki gets caught in the wave, and the story is about her attempt to literally keep her head above water and then metaphorically keep her head above water. Part of the book will be manga, and it will be illustrated by a UK-based Japanese artist, a wonderful artist called Chie Kutsuwada, who's about to start drawing the manga components. So as there's no images yet to show you of what Chie is going to do, I thought I'd just leave you with a few images that will inspire the story, both the prose and the manga. And I hope when it comes out you will enjoy Tsunami Girl very much, and hopefully it's useful as a book to help us overcome and recover from unforeseen crises in our life. Thank you very much.